I don't know what kind of neighborhood you people are from, but this is not it. The voice cuts through the gentle sizzle of burgers on the grill. It is sharp. It is serrated. It is a weapon honed by years of presumed superiority. David Martin does not turn immediately. He flips a patty with practiced ease, the spatula a familiar weight in his hand. The sun is warm on his back. The sound of his 8-year-old son, Leo, laughing as he chases a butterfly across the lawn is a perfect melody. A perfect melody, now interrupted. He finally turns. She stands on the edge of his new property line, a sentinel of suburban discontent. Her name is Karen Miller, though he does not know it yet. To him, she is just a posture. Ramrod straight, arms crossed, a face pinched with a disapproval so profound it seems to pull her features toward its center, like a collapsing star of indignation. Can I help you? David's voice is calm. It is a deep, even tone that has diffused countless standoffs and calmed panicked victims. It has no effect on this woman. You can help by turning that racket off, she snaps, gesturing toward a small portable speaker playing quiet jazz. And the smell, it's permeating everything. Some of us have standards. David glances at the speaker. The volume is barely above a whisper. He looks at his wife, Sarah, who has stopped setting the picnic blanket. Her smile is gone, replaced by a familiar, weary tension. Leo has stopped laughing. This is the moment. The first test in their new life. We're just having a family barbecue, ma'am, he says, his tone still maddeningly polite. He wipes his hands on a towel tucked into his jeans. He is a man in a plain t-shirt and worn denim. A man who looks like he belongs to the grill, to the lawn, to this simple Saturday afternoon. He is invisible, just as he planned. This is a quiet street. The woman continues, her voice rising. We don't have gatherings. We don't blast music. We certainly don't fill the air with smoke and grease. It's a barbecue, David repeats softly. It makes Smoke her eyes narrow. She sees his calm not as a sign of peace, but as a challenge to her authority. An act of defiance. I know what it is. And I'm telling you, it's not welcome. People like you move in, and the whole neighborhood goes downhill. People like you. There it is. The quiet part, spoken aloud. Sarah takes a step forward. There's no need for that. The woman ignores her completely, her focus locked on David. I'm on the neighborhood watch. I have connections. I suggest you pack it up. David holds her gaze. He does not raise his voice. He does not break his stance. He simply observes. He catalogues the twitch in her eye, the slight tremor of rage in her hands, the absolute, unshakable certainty of her righteousness. He is gathering data. He always gathers data. We're not going anywhere, he says. This is our home. We'll see about that, she sneers, pulling a phone from her pocket. We'll just see what the police have to say about this. She stabs at the screen with a manicured finger and turns her back, her voice now a performance for the 911 operator. Loud. Hysterical, full of carefully chosen words. Threats, aggressive, disturbance. David turns back to the grill. He flips another burger. The sizzle seems louder now, a small act of defiance in the suddenly silent yard. Leo comes and clings to his leg, his joy stolen. David places a hand on his son's head, a silent promise. Patience. It is the foundation of his life. He took this job to fix a broken system. To excise the poison that gives women like this the confidence to use the police as their personal cudgel. He had not expected the system to arrive on his own doorstep quite so soon. He moved his family to Northwood a week before his official start date for this very reason. To see the town not as a chief of police, but as a citizen, a black man in a predominantly white suburb. He wanted to feel the texture of the place, to understand the currents beneath the placid surface. He'd left a decorated career as a deputy inspector in a sprawling metropolis. He was a reformer, a data-driven cop who saw patterns where others saw only incidents. The city council of Northwood had hired him, headhunted him, to clean up a department plagued by lawsuits and accusations of racial bias. A department with a festering reputation for exactly this kind of behavior. The offer was a chance to build something new, to implement the community-focused policing he'd championed for years. But he knew you could not fix a machine without first understanding exactly how it breaks. So he moved into a modest house, not the large one in the gated community the city had offered. He drove a 10-year-old sedan. He told no one who he was. He was just David Martin, new resident. An experiment. The experiment was now yielding results. 2 police cruisers arrive within minutes. An impressively fast response time for a noise complaint. They roll up to the curb, lights off, but their presence is an announcement. The quiet jazz is long gone, the only sound the hum of their engines. One officer emerges from the driver's side of the first car. He is older, with a thick mustache and a gut that strains the buttons of his uniform shirt. He moves with a slow, deliberate swagger. He nods at Karen Miller, a familiar, easy gesture. A friend. The second officer gets out of the passenger side. He is young, barely out of his 20s. His uniform is crisp, his posture rigid. He looks from Karen to David's family and back again. His face is a canvas of uncertainty. This is Officer Evans, the moral witness. The older officer approaches David, his hand resting on his belt near his sidearm. His name tag reads Croft. Sergeant Croft. Evening. We've had a complaint about a disturbance. There's no disturbance here, Sergeant, David says, his eyes meeting Croft's. Just a family dinner. Karen Miller scurries over, positioning herself beside Croft. He was blasting music, Sergeant. Making threats. Look at them. They're completely out of control. Croft doesn't even glance at her. His focus is entirely on David. It is a look David has seen 1,000 times. A look of appraisal and dismissal, all in one. I'm going to need you to turn this all off and take it to the backyard. You're upsetting the neighbors. We are not upsetting anyone, David states. It is a fact, not an argument. This woman came onto my property and began harassing my family. Croft smirks. A slow, condescending curl of his lip. Mister, I'm not going to ask you again. Show some respect for the neighborhood you just moved into. Pack it up. Officer Evans shifts his weight. He looks at the small speaker, now silent. He looks at the single picnic blanket. He sees Sarah holding Leo's hand, the boy's face buried in her side. This does not look like an out-of-control party. It looks like a family trying to eat. Sergeant, Evans begins, his voice hesitant. Maybe we should just get everyone's statement. I'll handle this, Evans. Croft snaps without looking at him. The message is clear. Stand down. David's own training screams at him. He sees every procedural violation, the failure to separate the parties, the immediate assumption of guilt, the overt familiarity with the complainant. He feels the cold, familiar anger rising, but he contains it. It is not a tool for this moment. Instead, he uses his voice. Precise. Clinical. Sergeant, could you please clarify which city ordinance we are currently violating? The question throws Croft off balance. He expects shouting or submission, not calm, legalistic inquiry. It's called disturbing the peace, Croft says, his voice hardening. And I decide what that is. I see, David says. He subtly shifts his phone in his pocket, ensuring the microphone has a clear line. And could you please provide me with your full name and badge number for my records? This is a direct challenge. A citizen asking for accountability. In Croft's world, this is insubordination. You got a problem with my authority? Croft takes a step closer, invading David's personal space. He is trying to intimidate, to use his uniform and his presence as a force multiplier. You think you're some kind of lawyer? I'm a citizen who knows his rights, David replies, not moving an inch. The tension is a physical thing now. It crackles in the air between them. Sarah puts a hand on David's arm. David, please. Let's just go inside. He looks at her, and for a moment, his resolve wavers. He sees the fear in her eyes, the exhaustion. They have been through this before, in other cities, in other lives. But this was supposed to be different. Karen Miller sees the exchange. She sees it as weakness. Emboldened, she takes her own step forward. He's not listening to you, Sergeant. He's being defiant. You need to do something. Croft's face flushes with anger. He has been challenged. His authority questioned in front of a rookie and his favorite complainant. He needs to re-establish dominance. That's it, he barks. Party's over. I'm shutting this down. He gestures vaguely at the grill. But it is Karen who acts. Fueled by Croft's aggression, she marches past David. She walks directly to a small, plastic children's table where Leo has been sitting. On it sits his plate of food and a meticulously built Lego spaceship, a birthday present from last week. With a single, vicious kick, she sends the table flying. The plastic legs buckle. The plate cartwheels through the air, scattering macaroni salad and a half-eaten hot dog across the lawn. The Lego spaceship hits the driveway and explodes into 100 tiny, colorful pieces. A child's creation. A moment of joy. Obliterated. Leo lets out a heart-wrenching sob. Silence. The sizzle of the grill is gone. The hum of the cruisers is gone. All that exists is the sound of a little boy crying for his broken toy. Something inside David shifts. The observer becomes the actor. The patient data gatherer has reached his conclusion. The experiment is over. The calm in his demeanor does not break. It solidifies. It transforms from the placid surface of a lake into the hard, cold clarity of ice. Okay, he says. The word is quiet, but it lands with the force of a gavel. That's enough. He turns his gaze from the wreckage of the Lego ship to Sergeant Croft. I am now placing that woman under citizen's arrest for destruction of property and harassment of a minor. Croft stares, then bursts out laughing. A loud, ugly sound. Eh, what? You're arresting her? You're delusional. I am also informing you, Sergeant Croft, David continues, his voice unwavering, that I will be filing a formal, first-person complaint against you for misconduct, dereliction of duty, and intimidation. The laughter dies in Croft's throat. Karen Miller looks stunned, as if the concept of consequences is a foreign language she is hearing for the first time. You're filing a complaint? Croft's disbelief turns to rage. He jabs a finger into David's chest. You're not filing anything. You are under arrest for interfering with a police investigation and resisting authority. I am not resisting, David says simply. But you are making a grave mistake. The only mistake was me being nice to you, Croft snarls. Evans. Cuff him. Officer Evans hesitates. His eyes dart from his sergeant's furious face to David's impossibly calm one. He looks at the crying child. He knows, with absolute certainty, that this is wrong. This is not what he signed up for. He wants to protect and serve, not bully and intimidate. Sergeant, I don't think. Now, Evans. Croft bellows. Reluctantly, Evans moves forward, pulling out his handcuffs. Sir, please put your hands behind your back, he says, his voice barely a whisper. David turns to Sarah. Take Leo inside. Call Mayor Thompson. Tell her there's been an incident at our new address. Tell her to meet me at the precinct. Sarah's eyes widen, but she nods, a flicker of understanding dawning on her face. She scoops up their sobbing son and carries him toward the house. David turns back to the officers and places his hands behind his back. The metal of the cuffs is cold against his skin. It is a familiar feeling, but never from this side. Croft yanks the cuffs tight, a petty act of cruelty. You want to go to the station? Fine by me. You can file your little complaint from a holding cell. He thinks he has won. He is leading his captive away from the field of battle, victorious. He is a conqueror. He does not realize he is a lamb, marching himself to the slaughter. The Northwood police station is small and smells of stale coffee and industrial cleaner. Fluorescent lights hum overhead, casting a sickly yellow pallor on everything. It is a place designed to strip people of their power. Croft shoves David into a chair at a metal desk in the main booking area. He is loud, performative, ensuring every other officer in the room can hear him. Got a real winner here, Croft announces. Resisting, interfering, mouthy. Thinks he's a lawyer. A few officers chuckle. Most just keep their heads down, typing at their computers. This is just another night. Karen Miller is there, sitting with another officer, giving her statement. She looks smug, vindicated. She glances at David in his handcuffs, and a triumphant smirk plays on her lips. Croft slams a stack of paperwork onto the desk in front of David. Start writing, genius. Or I can write it for you. Your choice. David does not look at the papers. He looks directly at Sergeant Croft. He is done observing. I don't think you have the authority to process me, Sergeant, he says, his voice calm and clear, cutting through the low hum of the station. Croft leans in, his face inches from David's. I have all the authority I need. You seem to be confused about who's in charge here. No, David says, a hint of steel entering his tone. You are the one who is confused. He lifts his head slightly, looking past the sergeant's shoulder toward the glass doors of the entrance. I believe my office is on the second floor. When you're done here, you can leave these files on my new desk. The words hang in the air. Croft stares, his brain trying to process the sentence. It doesn't compute. He lets out a short, sharp laugh. Your office? Buddy, you're not just a lawyer, you're a comedian too. The only room you're getting has bars on the door. David's gaze remains fixed on the entrance. Mayor Thompson, good of you to come. I apologize for the informal welcome. Every head in the station swivels. Mayor Thompson stands in the doorway, flanked by two stone-faced men in suits. She is a formidable woman in her 60s, known for her no-nonsense attitude. She takes in the scene: the smug neighbor, the posturing sergeant, and the man she personally hired to save her city's police department sitting at a booking desk in handcuffs. Her face, already stern, hardens into a mask of cold fury. "Sergeant Croft," she says, her voice dangerously quiet. "What is the meaning of this? Why is my new chief of police in handcuffs?" The station falls utterly silent. The only sound is the hum of the lights. Croft freezes. His smirk evaporates. The blood drains from his face, leaving behind a pasty, gray pallor. He looks from the mayor to David and back again. The words don't connect. Chief of police. It is an impossible equation. Mayor. This man. He was causing a disturbance. Croft stammers, his bravado gone, replaced by a rising tide of panic. Karen Miller's face is a picture of slow-dawning horror. The color vanishes from her cheeks. Her mouth hangs slightly open. It is in this moment of frozen shock that Officer Evans makes his choice. He has been standing silently in the corner, his conscience at war with his instinct for self-preservation. The war is over. He takes 2 steps forward. His voice is shaking, but it is clear and carries across the silent room. "Mayor, ma'am," he says, his eyes fixed on the floor. That's not true. Sergeant Croft did not follow protocol. The man, Mr. Martin, he was just having a barbecue with his family. The neighbor, she instigated the entire incident. She kicked over his son's table. We had no cause to arrest him. The statement is a cannon blast in the quiet room. It is an act of career suicide, or an act of profound integrity. Mayor Thompson's eyes shift to Evans. She gives him a long, appraising look, then turns her glare back to Croft. "Get those cuffs off him." Now Croft fumbles for the key, his hands shaking so badly he can barely fit it into the lock. The cuffs click open and fall away. David stands up, rubbing his wrists. He does not look at Croft. He looks at Mayor Thompson. "Thank you for coming, Mayor." "David, I am so sorry," she says, her voice laced with fury and embarrassment. "I cannot believe this." "I can," David says grimly. "This is exactly what we talked about. This is the culture you hired me to change." He turns his attention to the room. His voice is no longer calm. It is commanding. It is the voice of a chief. "My name is David Martin. As of this moment, I am the acting chief of this department." He lets that sink in. He watches the shock and fear ripple through the officers present. "My first act is to open an internal affairs investigation into the conduct of Sergeant Croft, effective immediately." He turns to Croft, whose face is now slick with sweat. "Sergeant, your badge and your service weapon." On the desk. Now Croft stares, paralyzed. "Now," David's voice booms, echoing in the sudden cavern of the precinct. With trembling hands, Croft unclips his badge and unholsters his weapon, placing them on the metal desk with a heavy clatter. The sound is one of finality. "You are on administrative leave, pending termination," David says coldly. He then looks at Karen Miller, who seems to have shrunk into her chair. "And you, ma'am, are under arrest for filing a false police report, harassment, and destruction of private property." "Officer Evans," he says, his tone softening slightly as he addresses the young officer. "Please process this individual." Evans, looking stunned but resolute, nods. "Yes, Chief." He moves toward Karen, who begins to sob, the performance of her earlier 911 call replaced by genuine, pathetic tears. David then sweeps his gaze across the other officers in the room. The ones who chuckled. The ones who looked away. This department has been operating under a cloud of suspicion for years. It has been a haven for bullies and a weapon for bigots. That ends tonight. The culture of this department changes, starting right now. Every complaint will be investigated. Every officer will be held accountable. If that is a problem for any of you, the door is right there. Do not let it hit you on your way out. The fallout is swift and brutal. David, working with the mayor's office, launches the most comprehensive internal review the Northwood Police Department has ever seen. The audio recording from his phone is irrefutable. It captures every one of Croft's unprofessional remarks and Karen's prejudiced taunts. Officer Evans's formal statement corroborates every detail. He becomes the cornerstone of the investigation. The inquiry into Sergeant Croft unearths a deep, rotten history. A dozen similar complaints, all from minority residents, all dismissed and buried by Croft and his superiors. A pattern of abuse, protected by a thin blue line of complicity. Croft is terminated within the week. The district attorney, under pressure from the mayor and a suddenly engaged public, brings criminal charges against him for abuse of authority and perjury. Karen Miller's case becomes a local spectacle. Her smug confidence is replaced by a desperate attempt at damage control. But the evidence is overwhelming. She is convicted on all counts, sentenced to community service, and ordered to pay restitution for the property she destroyed, including a hefty sum for Leo's emotional distress. Her picture is splashed across the local news. The neighborhood watch quietly disbands. The enablers within the department are rooted out. 2 lieutenants and a captain who consistently signed off on Croft's incomplete reports are forced into early retirement, their careers ending in disgrace. David is formally sworn in as chief of police in a ceremony packed with city officials and news crews. He doesn't deliver a speech full of empty platitudes. He outlines a concrete, 10-point plan for reform, mandatory de-escalation and implicit bias training, a new, transparent citizens review board, a community outreach program to rebuild trust. In his first official act, he calls Officer Evans to the podium. In front of the cameras, he commends the young officer for his integrity and courage. He promotes him to detective on the spot, assigning him to lead the new Community Affairs Task Force. Evans, blinking in the flash of the cameras, shakes his new chief's hand, his future in law enforcement forever changed. 3 months later, the sun is warm again on David Martin's back. The sizzle of burgers on the grill is a familiar, comforting sound. The lawn, however, is different. It is filled with people, neighbors, old couples, young families, people of every color and background. They have brought side dishes and folding chairs. Laughter and conversation fill the air. The small portable speaker is playing jazz, a little louder this time. No one seems to mind. Detective Evans is there, out of uniform. He is on his hands and knees in the grass, helping Leo build a new Lego spaceship. It is bigger and more complex than the last one. A Star Destroyer. Sarah moves through the crowd, a plate of cookies in her hand, her smile easy and genuine. The weariness is gone. David watches them all. He watches his son, whose laughter is loud and free. He watches his wife, who finally looks at peace. He sees the people of his new town not as strangers, but as a community, tentatively, awkwardly, trying to become something better. He knows the work is far from over. Reforming a police department is not a single battle, but a long, grueling war fought on 1,000 fronts. There will be resistance. There will be setbacks. But as he flips a burger, the spatula a familiar weight in his hand, he feels a sense of hope that is as real and as warm as the sun on his skin. Change is possible. A new beginning is not just a promise. It is already here, sizzling on the grill, right in his own front yard.